I'm right here beside this old dead black cherry tree, and you can tell the black cherries because they get this black, crumbly, flaky, cornflake like bark compared to a pin or choke cherry, which will always have a relatively smooth bark with horizontal lenticels, they call them. But getting beyond the tree ID, here's an old man of the woods. Now this is a bolete mushroom. Get my knife out here. This is an edible mushroom. And a characteristic of boletes is that on the underside of the mushroom, instead of having gills, they have little pores, which is almost looks kind of like a sponge. And that's how you identify a bolete mushroom. There's a lot of different boletes, and some are poisonous. Some are really good edibles, and some are not so great edibles. And I think this falls into the not so great edible category, but I still wanted to show it to you. It's a pretty unique mushroom. They call it old man of the woods because it kind of has this brownish gray fuzzy appearance. The cap is kind of fuzzy, almost hairy. You can see that rubs off. But that's just another edible mushroom that you can find growing in the summer. And most of these mushrooms I'm showing you start growing in July and can grow right through to October depending on the season. At least here in Michigan. But I'm going to put him back. See them up here where his spores can carry. Here's an older old man of the woods mushroom. It's kind of nice to see these mushrooms in the different stages of growth, because that way you can kind of get familiar with them. And right across the way is another bolete. And again, I can tell it's a bolete because it's a mushroom with a stem that's growing on the ground. Get my knife out here. And it has pores instead of gills, that spongy surface underneath. Now with the boletes, there's a lot of different features you need to look for. Sometimes reticulation on the stem, like a webbing, the size of the pores, the color, and whether if you rub it like that, will it bruise and change color? It probably shows brown in the camera, but when I first did that it was more of a pink coloration. And whenever I see those upturned pores when they're exposed from the side like that, that usually is a sign to me that it's Tylopilus, which one of the mushrooms in that genera is the bitter bolete, which some people confuse for the edible king bolete. And a way to find out if it's the bitter bolete is just to taste it. And make sure and spit all of it out. Didn't taste bitter at first, but I think it's starting to. So that's most likely a bitter bolete mushroom right there. Either that or it's another Tylopilus that could be edible. Some people supposedly can't taste the bitterness in these though. But yeah, I'm tasting it now. They're usually quite bitter. And there's another one right over here for comparison. I've seen a few people show these mushrooms recently and they were wondering what they were. That's most likely what it is a bitter bolete. It's got those upturned pores that are kind of fat, stick out, and you can see them from the side. Should have a pink spore print, and when you bruise those pores, it should be like a pink or a light brown color. I should mention it's not a good idea to just go tasting every mushroom you find. The only reason I tasted that one is because I knew it was a bolete, and I knew that it wasn't a seriously toxic bolete based on some other features that I've already discussed in other videos. Blue staining, you want to stay away from that. If the bolete has got any red or orange on it, you might want to stay away from that as well. But that mushroom didn't exhibit any of those features. Plus, I kind of already knew what it was just by looking at it. But that taste is, it is one of the identifying features of that mushroom, so it's important to know. But I spotted something here. One of my favorite mushrooms of all time, the chestnut bolete. This one's fairly easy to identify. The stem has a hollow appearance, but it's filled with a pithy, cottony substance. And as all boletes, they have pores, that spongy substance. Now this is about as big as they get. I've found some that were about that big around, but that's probably average. And it's a really, really tasty mushroom. The problem with this mushroom is, since it's summertime, hopefully you can see all those holes in the stem. That means it's full of worms. Break it in half. It's white inside, and the pores are a light yellow color, but it's just full of worms. So let's just toss it over there, let it spore out. The bug just flew in my mouth. There's another chestnut bolete growing right next to these Indian pipes. I'll leave him alone. They pretty much all have bugs. It's one of my favorite mushrooms to eat. It's one of the tastiest mushrooms you'll find, but it's hard to find them in the summer, which is when they typically grow, without all those worms in them. And they really like these oak woods. But it's a good mushroom to know because sometimes you'll find whole little groups of them that are bug-free. Alright, here's another common mushroom you'll find in the summer through early fall. This is a Russula or Russula, and I believe this is Russula emetica, which is a toxic mushroom. There are edible Rustlers, a little slug on that one. But the key feature for the Rustlers is the stem. It's like a piece of chalk when you break it. Now this one's kind of getting old and bug-eaten, but it breaks kind of like a piece of chalk. But there are edible Rustlers. I don't mess with them because there's so many different kinds and it's really hard to properly identify them. Most people that do identify edible Rustlers, I don't know, it's almost like you're guessing as to its edibility, and I don't like doing that because even scientists and professional mycologists and botanists have a hard time distinguishing these species, and they argue over which one is which, so it's something I don't mess with. But I wanted to show it because it's very common to find Rustlers out in the woods when you're hunting the edible mushrooms. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the comments and support.